This is the Astrology Show podcast with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your astrology and tarot for the week starting Monday, September 23. Happy birthday if it's your birthday. You could be promoted, gain a great new job, win an award or graduate with honours in 2025. 2026, babies born this week have 4 factors in Aries. As children, they are competitive and energetic, but they do need a sport or yoga. Famous birthdays include Bruce Springsteen, 75 on September 23. Linda McCartney, whose old telescope I happen to own, would have been 83 on September 24. Steve Severin is 69 on September 25. Brian Ferry is 79 on September 26. And Brett Anderson is 57 on September 29. Your tarot this week is Aries, Strength, Taurus, the 3 of Hearts, Gemini, the Ace of Pentacles, Cancer, the 4 of Cups, Leo, the Ace of Swords, Virgo, the 2 of Pentacles, Libra, the Fool, Scorpio, the Ace of Wands, Sagittarius, the 10 of Cups, Capricorn, the 9 of Wands, Aquarius, the High Priestess, and Pisces, the 4 of Pentacles. Fated connections are Sagittarius and Libra, figuring out relationship karma. In your birth chart, if you have Libra factors, the spotlight turns on the most important duet or double act in your life so that you can make new choices about balancing the scales between you and he or you and she. Aries. All eyes and ears are pointing towards your work ethic, daily routine, lifestyle, and your relationship with your body, with Mercury, Apollo, and Vesta in Virgo. If correspondence regarding your health, well-being, mental health, or body was not conclusive since July, it certainly is now. Actually, Aries, you have been on a go-slow, stop-start, and even cancellation road with your health in recent weeks. Mercury retrograde might have caught you with an operation, for example, or your assumptions about travelling abroad on COVID. Wherever life finds you, even if you have been as wise and careful as it's possible to be, you have a huge amount of catching up to do with your food, drink, prescriptions, drugs, doctor, surgeon, nurse, therapist, dentist, and so on. That new moon, which was a new beginning as September started, was a bit misleading, as it's really only been in the last week or two that you felt you are now on the new pathway again. We also need to talk about work, quite obviously. This applies to study or unpaid work as well. You are almost at the halfway mark of the biggest sign-off in years in terms of saying goodbye to people, situations, or organisations which were so dominant for such a long time. Pluto transits tend to be like that. You feel stood over or controlled or taken over on some level. It's a rule with this cycle that if those Pluto people or organisations do not compromise and pull back, learning to share 50-50, they are soon made to understand there is no debate about it. And it's also true that extremely Pluto types, individually or collectively, can sometimes be moved stage left by the universe. That happens too, Aries. So this combination this week of these Virgo transits in your sector of work and well-being, because one affects the other, and this really long sign-off with this cycle that's been running since 2008, suggests that you are long overdue for big choices in September, October, and November. And this week finally allows you to start on that pathway because the delay or the stop-start is well and truly over. Understanding that what happens to you with your physical or mental health is a byproduct of the way that you really feel about your workload is half the battle. This is really your subconscious mind or your unconscious self driving the bus. If there is anything on any level about what you do, whether you're paid for it or not, that somehow rankles, it's pretty common for your health to become an issue, which gets in the way. That's why taxi drivers have back problems, and it's why footballers have ankle problems on this transit. Whatever's been happening to you, whether it's minor or major, will be a mirror of the way that you feel about your career, your academic career, or your unpaid role. What happens in November is the big sign-off. It is the end of power and control issues which have been with you for years. It is also the beginning of a two-stage process of deal-making or compromise. The first step is towards the second half of November, and the second step will be towards the December 7, December 8 period, just before you go into Christmas. So perhaps this is all about the end of the year and what's happening at work anyway. The end of the year being the time that people get promoted, for example, or they resign, they take redundancy, and so on and so forth. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe that date's even in your diary now. However it shapes up for you, this week gives you a chance to make your priorities with your well-being and your concept of what work should be. Taurus. Diana, Juno, the South Node, and the Sun are in your work and health zone in Libra. The option to commit to a new approach to your food, doctor, drink, medication, fitness, or healing will be on full display. The merry-go-round that you have been on with your health and or your workload all year will end in January 2025. This is a catch-up week when you can't do much to stop the repetition, but you can definitely find ways to experience the loop in a better way. Having other people clock what is going on with your job, your unpaid work, or your study is half the battle. You can see it from the outside looking in this week. The sun shines a spotlight. The other pretty obvious thing is the choice between freedom, space, and independence, and security, commitment, and comfort. Only you can really figure out which one works for you, as perhaps you are at a point with your workload where you will choose autonomy over certainty. This is the kind of choice people make when they walk away from a role or project. It obviously pulls the other way too this week. Taurus, you may ditch any idea about being a free agent in favour of a promise, a binding agreement. As much as this applies to your jobs or courses, it also applies to your health. This includes your food, drink, fitness, doctors, nurses, complementary practitioners, as well as medication, drugs, and the like. So you obviously have a completely contradictory choice here. Commitment or no commitment whatsoever. How you come out of this is up to you, but you will find that January 2025 is a sign-off. That's when the stuck South Node goes out of your zone of lifestyle, well-being, and work for another 18 years. This Libra cycle reminds you that you can't cut yourself off at the neck. You do not exist only as a talking head, online, as a name, or as a face. You are a whole creature. And if you wanted to trace things back from whatever your body is telling you, or your mind, you would go straight to your concept of duty, work, and service, and how you feel about that unconsciously. What on a subconscious level may not be fully serving you may be manifesting as an issue which gets in the way of you serving others. And that could be anything from the housework, which not many people get paid for, to walking the dog, to saying yes to your employers, or dealing with particular colleagues. The bigger picture, all of this is going to show up between November and February 2025, because you're looking at reshuffles in your workspace or in your chosen industry, or a change in the balance of power at home or for you as a volunteer or student. You can expect to see mergers, promotion, demotion, disappearance, and the rest of it. Within those gaps, you will find a space to get in and claim what is empowering for you. Gemini. Karma rolls with younger faces as the sun joins the South Node in Libra in the same chart zone as Diana and Juno. Is this about your sons or your godchildren, your grandchildren, or people whom you babysit? This is about courtship too, and the bedroom. You have been dealing with repetition all year with all of these matters, intimacy with others and also a younger generation. That is how the karma works, by putting you through the same old thing day after day, with younger faces, issues about babies or pregnancy for some of you, or your love life in general. And as a result of that, Gemini, you are learning to change on the inside. You are evolving and growing. That is the purpose of the South Node. It ends in January 2025 as the South Node ends its time in Libra, in the fifth house of your chart. So the loop, the repetition, or the rubber band will stop next year as you go into what feels for you like a very, very new year indeed. And we're yet to see why that is. This may be events at Christmas when, of course, the family gets together, or it may be events around New Year's Eve, which is when couples get together or sometimes decide to call it quits. However you're placed, and it will depend on your natal chart or birth chart, you'll be pleased to hear that this week is part of the settling up or the reckoning up. This week is about seeing the situation from the outside looking in. This may be your godson, as I've mentioned, your former boyfriend, the marital bed, a dating website, or your daughter. It may be teenagers that you lecture at university. The choices that you have made about your personal relationships and younger people always come back to you in this cycle, and what you have to deal with is what you created all those years ago. The karma this week comes from your life as it was 18 or 19 years before. If you go back to what you were doing or saying then, in relation to courtship, the bedroom, or choices about the young, you will make the connection with what is happening now. This week in particular shows you a classic choice between commitment or total lack of commitment. This is about freedom or very little freedom at all, and you have a fork in the road. What you opt for in relation to a particular person or situation is up to you. But as you get off the wheel next January, you may as well make sure this week that you get off the wheel in a way that satisfies you, as of course this cycle will be back in 18 or 19 years' time. Therefore, closure, step by step, spiritually and karmically, is a pretty noble goal. It's also quite hard work, but this week will show you that you can do it your way by changing your attitude towards people who never change or situations which seem to you to be purely repetitive. Altering your perspective on that is the way through, and developing a more philosophical attitude or even a sense of humour about the stuck record is one way that you will speed your way towards sign-off as 2025 begins. Cancer. It helps to have other people looking at your house, your apartment, your family, your household, your town, or your country. This is how you make accurate judgment calls. In comes the Sun in Libra with Diana, Juno, and the South Node to help you do that this week. The Sun will shed light, and the spotlight reveals all the details of your home, your real estate, your sense of belonging to a town or country, your relatives, even your ancestors, and your extended domestic circle. You could call it your annual checkup. The most important thing to remember is that this repetitive, circular, stuck situation ends next January. You have put up with it all year in terms of your home or your family, but the South Node cannot stay in Libra forever. And as you go into 2025, you will realise that you are free to actually act and see a result for a change. The spinning wheels are evident this week, but the whole point of having you go around and around is to get you to change on the inside. So if you feel as if you have heard one family member or a household member say the same script a dozen times before, don't react the same way that you did a dozen times before. You can change your response. This is really the big karmic development that the old astrologers talk about. You become more philosophical, more tolerant, better humoured. Amazingly, you may even use the repetition or the stuck record with someone at home or about the home to achieve something truly great. If your house, apartment, town or country is a bigger issue, January 2025 is not that far away for a sign-off. The other important point to make is that 2025 is useful on two levels because from June next year, Jupiter, with all his expansion, growth, high hopes for a better future, solutions, and basic luck, moves into the same part of your personal chart as your own sun in Cancer. And this is where your people and your place come first. From the middle of next year, right up until June 2026, you are in a fantastic new cycle when a high percentage of Cancerian people will move to a bigger or better property, resolve any issues with renovation or repairs, and sort out the household and the extended family circle in a brand new way, which allows you to experience so much more that is bigger and better. Jupiter is a few months off, but you may look forward to the period around your birthday next year as the beginning of the biggest and best that is possible for you in 12 long years. Leo. Mercury, Apollo, and Vesta are in Virgo in your money and property zone. This also rules business, charity, and possessions. Across the way, Saturn and Neptune are in your financial relationships zone. This is usually about family or a partner. If ever there was a need for research, this week is all of that. Leo, you will be able to make up for lost time as the numbers or the paperwork, the discussion or the phone calls since July has taken you backwards and forwards. There is someone that you can copy or take inspiration from this week, as Apollo in the chart always suggests a leader who is a bit of a Renaissance man, a multitasker who is admired and looked up to. This may be an individual, like an accountant, or an organisation, perhaps a charity, that you feel is worth taking notes from. Far more important long term is knowing that you sign off from this financial, business, property, or charity cycle involving other people next May 2025. The short term is about you and your own life budget. The long term is about the way that a marriage or family, for example, affects everything that you own, earn, or owe. There are variations on this theme. It can be a de facto relationship with a rent question, for example. What you are going through, Leo, can only happen once every 165 years. That's Neptune in Pisces in your 8th house of joint finance and property. So signing off from years of confusion over boundaries next May 2025 is huge. Signing off from Saturn and all his restrictions and barriers is another really huge deal. What you can do this week on a micro level is try to get across both sides of the issue about the money, the house, the company, the apartment, the valuables, and the rest. You know what price tags that you hang on things, but what about him, her, or them? Mercury is with you now, the messenger of the gods, moving forwards as he should be. So there is a question and answer session just waiting to happen. If you have also been waiting on news via email or through the post, via a phone call, it will come as Mercury finishes his stay, finally moving forwards in the nitpicking and detail-conscious sign of Virgo, with the numbers in place very shortly. This will enable you to really look at 2025 with the long view, but most importantly, to understand the patterns that you've been acting out with finance, property, business, or charity this year, and to question those patterns and to see if they're really working for you. This is particularly true when it comes to a mortgage, a will, an inheritance, a legacy, a joint bank account, insurance, a pension or superannuation, and the rest. When in doubt, to cut through the confusion, ask the experts. Virgo. The sun is now in Libra, alongside the south node of Karma, Diana, and Juno. You owe or are owed, and it is a soulful or spiritual settlement, though it may appear in the form of money or objects or a particular house or apartment. You only get insights like this every 12 months into your banking, cash flow, taxes, house, apartment, charity, or business, of all the areas of your life, which is most like a mini-series Virgo. It just has to be finance. You have had so many cycles in Aries in your 8th house of joint property and banking for so many years now that this really is like a continuing drama. This week narrows your focus on the current episode, which ends next January 2025. Virgo, you might already have that date in your diary. Even if you don't, the stuck situation that you are in now, where nothing ever changes and nobody ever does or says anything different, will close for good next January. In fact, 2025 is going to see a huge change in everything that you own, earn, or owe. That starts next May. It is rather a long way off, but again, May could be in your diary for next year. This week is about understanding that when you cannot make other people change their script or their performance, you can only change your response to the repetition. You don't have to be a Zen master, Virgo, but it does help. More realistically, you know for a fact that it is your take on the numbers, your angle on the property, your perspective on the other person or people, which makes all the difference to how you feel. It takes a lot of highly conscious living to be able to control how you choose to respond, but it will work for you. From May 2025, you move into what I can only call an altered financial state, rather like a bubble to ride around in. This is Neptune changing signs to Aries, moving into this same zone of your chart, which rules other people's involvement in your finance or property. So from May next year, there is an outlet, a way through, a holiday from the real world, or a vacation from what you would call real financial or property existence. What shape that takes may be hinted at now, or you may have to find out later on, but you certainly have a completely different set of numbers to work with next year. Libra. The sun shines a spotlight on your title, reputation, image, label, name, face, style, shape, and all the rest, not to mention your brand as a whole. The South Node in Libra in your profile zone also suggests backwards traction from karma created 18 or 19 years ago. Diana and Juno are also in Libra, also in your first house of reputation and your public face. If you have been wondering why nothing ever changes with your self-promotion, your relaunch, your appearance, or your branding in 2024, it's because of the South Node in Libra cycle. You are being pulled backwards in time, so life repeats. You keep trying to do things differently regarding how you are seen, but other people keep spinning their wheels. If you are curious, do go back to life 18 or 19 years earlier, which is the last time that the South Node was in this same cycle. So December 26, 2004 to June 22, 2006, and even the previous cycle, if you are the right age, April 6, 1986 to December 2, 1987. Basically, Libra, you are being taken back there. What you can do, however, is change your attitude towards the repetition. This may be about your weight, for example, or having to deal with being well known, or sorting out your title. The circular cycle ends in January 2025, and with it, a situation which you feel is like a repeat episode starring you, or a rewound video of yourself on YouTube. This week, you can use the transits in Libra to find a way through. And the way through is to change your perspective so that you find a point of view about all this repetition, which feels comfortable for you, even quite good. If you have any Aries factors in your natal or birth chart, then this cycle is a double whammy because you are also going through major transits in Aries, again, in your first house of image, personality projection, profile, reputation, and your exterior. So dealing with this double whammy for you becomes a lot easier from January 2025 when this stuck cycle between Aries and Libra actually ends. Even if you don't have Aries factors or you don't know, it's still true that this week is part of slow closure with the me issues, and you'll see why next January. Scorpio, the sun goes into Libra now and into your 12th house, which is invisible to other people, extremely important to you, and usually conducted by yourself. The spotlight this week goes on God, alternatives to God, therapy, counseling, hypnosis, the tarot, mediumship, or similar. You also have the South Node in Libra, Diana and Juno too, all in the same 12th house of your chart. Invisible does not mean less important. In fact, all these Libra transits do line up with your birth chart too. Scorpio, if you have anything at all in Pisces in your natal chart, you're having a double cycle. Once again, it's the 12th house of the interior person, the soul, the spirit, or the psyche. Whether you do or don't, or whether you just don't know, it's still true that this week you need to be alone, or you'll be taken there by circumstances. Nothing ever changes at the moment with your God, your tarot, your meditation, your therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, psychic, and the rest. The stuck record is still very much stuck. Yet you will see it taken off the record player next January 2025. This may be the Archbishop of Canterbury or the Pope. It may be whatever you are being given for anxiety or depression. The 12th house is below the surface, but there is an awful lot going on down there. The subconscious mind is your submarine trip, and the unconscious mind is your underwater experience. Scorpio, you have a choice to make this week about what you know really well, but other people can't see. Are you going to commit, or are you going to be free? Even though the stuck cycle ends next January, this week does bring you a choice about autonomy and liberty and space, or security and a pledge or a promise. So, for example, this may be that you sign up to a church group and commit yourself, or it may be that you walk right away from a psychologist that you've been seeing, or a particular way of dealing with your inner self that has taken you round in circles. Next January, when all this stops, so will a big part of your life that is swallowing up so much time and energy now. The point about being alone goes back to old astrology, which always recognized the 12th house as being a sabbatical. Long, long ago, it was associated with the monk or the nun, and of course, the solitary period of meditation or even hibernation that followed. So whether you're choosing this or whether it's being thrust upon you, this week is telling you sometimes you have to stop the noise outside your door in order to process what's going on. Sagittarius. It's all about friends and groups. The Sun, the South Node, Diana, and Juno are in your 11th house of sisterhood, brotherhood, social circles, and social media. This may be a club, society, band, association, political party, charity, and so on. It may be less formal, so something that you engage in on Substack, or just a school reunion with old friends and acquaintances. Sagittarius, you are still pulling karma from 18 and 19 years ago. This karma goes back another 18 or 19 years as well. So if something or someone feels so familiar, that is because there was never any closure. The actual friends or groups may have been different then, or amazingly, may still be the same faces, but the closure is slow. The years in question are December 26, 2004 to June 22, 2006, and even earlier, April 6, 1986 to December 2, 1987. You are owed spiritually from the past, or you owe spiritually. And that is why things go round and round now with friends or groups, because it is the only way to evolve. How evolve? Well, change on the inside. You can't alter what other people are doing or saying because they are a stuck record. However, you can selectively choose to respond in a carefully chosen way. You may choose to see the funny side, for example, or choose to treat this as an excuse to become more philosophical or tolerant. Amazingly, from next January, the South Node leaves Libra, and you will find that once again, what you do and say actually changes things for a change with your friend or with the group. If you are one of those Sagittarians who have Aquarius factors in your birth chart, then what is happening is going to transform you. In fact, you were given a taste of this in 23 and again earlier in 24. But between November and next February 2025, power and control walk into the space socially with your friend or with the circle. Sorting out how to share the power and the control when it is also very new is part of what this long process is all about. If you don't have Aquarius factors or you don't know, this week you will still be dealing with the circle or the network or the person. But it may also be one of those situations where you just know 2025 is going to alter your life, in which case you'd have to suspect that you do have Aquarius factors. Capricorn. The Sun in Libra in your 10th house with the South Node, Diana and Juno, makes your version of success ripe for public inspection into October. Other people are looking and watching, listening or reading. There is nothing like feedback and reaction from other people. The spotlight turns on your place in the system, so you can see clearly after maybe not seeing at all. So ask yourself how far up you are. Are you at the top? And if so, are you staying at the top or jumping off? Maybe you are on the ground floor. The system that we're talking about here is social hierarchy, the company, the establishment, high society, the government, the corporation, the institution, and so on. This is actually a double cycle for you because in your birth chart, you have Pluto going back through your 10th house of status and success. So there is a major sign-off in motion with your career, your social position, your unpaid role, your ambition or academic life. It takes you until November to sign off, Capricorn, with a second sign-off, a final compromise or deal in early December, as you agree to differ with key people. This new arrangement will allow you to start 2025 knowing that the transformation is complete. This week is really a chance to see yourself as others see you, and that will alter a few things in the future. For example, next January 2025 really is day one of the new life in terms of your ambition or your position. You will be amazed at how different things feel next year without the politics, the power questions, or the control issues. This week is a preview of what might be, and you are required to change on the inside if you possibly can. Altering your perspective or who or what never changes will make you so much more comfortable and could make you a superior human being, to be perfectly frank. As a Sun Capricorn, you were born with the Sun in the 10th house in the natural house system, and the 10th house describes the highest point in the chart. You were born to climb higher, to get to the top, and to explore what it means to be at the top, which is intensely personal. Along the way, you have been through one of the most intense and relentless cycles of your life, which winds down in November, but you are perfectly entitled to want to stand back from it now and think more seriously about what being successful actually means in the real world and how you would do things differently in 2025. There is a major new moon for you just after Boxing Day. So once you are at the other side of Christmas, you will find that you are more than ready for New Year's Eve. And it's going to be a New Year's Eve with total focus on where you stand and what you do. Aquarius, this double Saturn and Neptune transit of Pisces in your second house stretches you with your money, your business, taxation, company, house, charity, possessions, or apartment. It's more important this week because you also have Vesta, Apollo, and Mercury passing through. This is life budget time. You will have to compare your price tags to his, hers, or theirs, and this will probably be your husband or wife or a family member. Variations on the theme can include a mistress and an apartment. It is pretty common for there to be a mortgage, a will, a legacy, or a lawyer involved. Aquarius, you are making up for lost time as you have had so much malarkey in July and August with Mercury retrograde. Even the beginning of September was stop, start, or stalling. Now the road is straight for you to travel. The only issue is knowing that the numbers are one thing and the complex nature of the relationships is another. If you need to go off and tot up the numbers by yourself in terms of what is priceless or precious or who is, so be it. You can also get to the point where you see how a deal could be made or a bargain struck. It's all about your life budget, what you will not sell your soul for or what you will happily negotiate over. This takes you into the things that money can't buy: integrity, credibility, peace of mind, justice, people who are so valuable to you. All of this is now at your fingertips with the calculator to choose. It should comfort you to know that in May 2025, the most confusing and confused cycle of your entire life is over. With finance or property, business or valuables, charity or ownership, there are still no boundaries. The boundaries are all over the place all the time. But from May next year, life goes back to normal, something you might have forgotten about over the last few years, as everything has been so random or difficult to rein in, curtail, contain, or control. This week might persuade you to get outside advice on that, which wouldn't be a bad idea. Mercury is behaving himself. He is the messenger of the gods, and there will be important emails, correspondence, or perhaps announcements which change the way that you're going to think about your budgeting now and in future. Pisces, if you get the feeling that you are being encouraged to think extremely differently using the web, you are correct. It may be the way that you handle newspapers or television too, or the radio. The symbol of radical and revolutionary change, Uranus, is writ large in your chart this week, with Hygeia and Aesculapia also here in Taurus in your third house of words, images, and ideas. This cycle ends next year. Until then, you can build on recent, quite radical experiments for you. You may have tried a new medium to communicate, new technology. Uranus is a symbol of the revolution that sets you free. You may have had to learn a new language. Maybe you're learning a different accent, or there may be another way of approaching communication, which for you is the last thing you thought that you'd end up doing. Pisces, there is typically a sense of the world turning upside down, or the World Wide Web turning upside down this week as part of a continuum. This slow upending of things is what liberates you and also exhilarates, opening up to the radical changes online and with a microphone or a telephone, even a fountain pen, perhaps with fundamental communication like hearing or writing, is what this year and next year are still all about. If you want to be free, if you want to be independent, you will see why all of this matters so much this week in April and May next year, as you will have final results then, or a new beginning, which is a direct consequence of the experiments this week. So, for example, a new website or a special project using your way with words, ideas, or images. Your third house is about communication and information as you process it. And this is where you could be on the cutting edge one more time this week. Perhaps you already are. What you do now pays off next year in freedom. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you again next week.